Welcome everyone to NCEA's Advent Awakenings, Use a Seasonal Reflection to Build a Year of Spiritual Community Development webinar. My name is Kate Reich and I am the organizer for today's event and will help you with any technical questions that may come about. Before we begin, I do have some housekeeping matters to share with you. First, please know that all of your microphone connections with today's webinar have been muted. During the presentation, you may ask questions or provide comments for the presenter by using the chat and/or question functions located in the GoToWebinar panel on the right side of your screen. To use these functions, click on the chat or question bubble and then click into the blank box area and enter your question using your keyboard, and then click Send. We also invite you to post your question on today's Meet. I just sent the URL out to you through the chat feature if you would like to post your questions or have a dialogue with other attendees this way. And that link is todaysmeet.com/NCEA-Advent. Second, the webinar presentation will run for about 45 to 50 minutes, leaving some time at the end for the presenters to answer any questions that you provide. Third, you will be asked to complete a brief evaluation about this webinar later today or tomorrow, and your feedback is greatly appreciated. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded, and you will all receive a copy of the final recorded presentation, which the NCEA will email to you once we have the link available. Right now, I'm very pleased to present Jim King and Christopher Cosentino, who are the Associate Executive Directors of the Elementary and Secondary Schools Departments, respectively, here at NCEA. Jim and Chris both of them bring extensive Catholic education experiences at the instructional, administration, and spiritual levels, as well as from the elementary, secondary, and university perspectives. Please welcome Jim and Chris.
Hello, this is Jim King. I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar, and we have Chris here as well with us. Chris, you there? Okay. Chris, did we get you in this time? All right. Unfortunately, last time we had a little bit of trouble getting Chris kind of technically worked in here. I'm afraid we might be having that problem again. Chris will go ahead and actually be joining us on today's Meet. So if you want to go ahead and pull up that in your browser there and have that running alongside, you'll be able to have that to go back to. I think Chris is going to be adding a lot of input and some other pieces through that. So, all right. Well, we are going to go ahead and get started. The session is Advent Awakenings, using a seasonal reflection to build up spiritual community development. And the idea is that we would go ahead and try to take what we're doing in Advent and use that as a platform for extending out throughout the year and extending out to the broader community. And so we'll talk about some ideas with that. Some of that we're going to lay out real obvious for you. Some of that we're going to go ahead and leave for you to make some of the connections there. And so hopefully that'll all play out for you. Okay, let's see if we can get started here. And really, when we talk about our Advent services, we are looking at a couple target audiences. So we want to think about that very clearly right from the mindset. We do have the students, of course, who most of you are going to be teachers and some administrators thrown in there. So that's primarily who a lot of folks are going to be working with, so we want to be aware of that. But along with this is a perfect time for development for the staff as well. One, to personally develop their own faith commitment and their spiritual awareness through the Advent season, as well as those connections between staff, and to build up a spiritual community within the staff by engaging in a lot of these activities together. Third of all, we want to draw in parents. They're not just kind of an outside party, but they can become involved with this whole process as well as we look through those ideas. Okay, so we want to think about what things that we're doing. And the session today is pretty much going to focus on 3 different areas that we can work on during Lent. One is our prayer and those prayer services, personal prayer that we're going to be doing. We're going to have time and look at reflection and what's being done within the classroom to go ahead and help the students become more aware of what the Advent season is, that call to grow closer to Christ, to build the relationships, to move forward. And last of all, service. As we all know, if we are very passionate in our love of God, that will motivate us to be active and to do something and to reach out to others through service. So that's a very critical piece of our Catholic perspective and how we approach things. And so that service component is tied hand in hand with all that we do. Okay, so we want to think, like I said, about a couple pieces here as you're going throughout. One is we talk about these different Advent activities. We want to connect them to a year-long mindset of how can elements of what are being done here draw out to activities, approaches, a mindset that carries throughout the year. And the other piece then is, of course, we want to go ahead and connect the stakeholders within the school. You know, obviously the students, the staff, their parents, draw them all together. And then we also have that larger community for many of the parish schools of their broader community, or for the high schools, those connections back to their parishes as well, even though they are, you know, not necessarily the parish school itself. So some pieces there, a little bit of housekeeping about connecting. Also want to go ahead and we have several different folks from a variety of audiences here, so we're going to be speaking to different grade levels, and so hopefully as these come about, you can kind of see where your grade level fits in, or your level within the school, being administrator or teacher. We're going to go through these ideas a bit quickly, but as Kate mentioned, we're going to go ahead and send you a recorded copy of this, as well as, you know, some links to how to access all these pieces. So some folks will be jotting down notes, and that'll be very helpful, but also you will get some links here that will connect you with. As we've already mentioned a couple times, there's the link for today's meet. You can post any questions there, follow along with what with Chris's input. We don't want to forget him out in his quiet world of cyberspace there. And the today's meet, we have that site up for a month. So any activities that we want there. One of the things that we'd also like to be able to use the today's meet for is Chris and I absolutely know that you all are the ones out in the field with a whole variety of activities, prayer services, connections that are being made. And so we would really like to hear from you all what you're doing. We've taken things from our experience, from gathering ideas from others, a variety of resources that we're going to try to get to you, but also if you can share with others, and there was a previous session today, they'll be able to see the same chat session, and so that could be a help for everyone as well. So we want to start off in looking at then with prayer, that first topic that I had talked about. And a very strong resource that you have available to you is a piece published actually through NCEA, and it is called Advent and Christmas Reflections. It has daily reflections and prayers for every single day of the Advent season, as well as Christmas Eve, Christmas, and the 8 days following after Christmas as part of that Christmas season. It's put together by Tom Simmons, Father Tom Simmons. He's out of Crichton University. Great guy, very insightful, and he's just got a boatload of materials here for folks. It would be very simple to simply go forward, purchase this book, get it for yourself, and you've got all the tools that you need for an absolutely terrific Advent, and you would be completely prepped. It is chock full of ideas. It is available through the NCEA website. but this isn't simply a pitch session for some of our stuff. As a matter of fact, we're going to be throwing out through this whole presentation a wide variety of websites, resources, places that you can go to for information. This is to help you along your digging process. This isn't NCEA's endorsement of any particular group or things like that. They're just resources for you to begin to investigate. And if you have any questions about AIM, you can always go to your pastors and get any questions kind of hopefully handled that way. So another piece, like I said, so we'll just kind of get straight into it. Hopefully during Advent you are making prayer services a very active piece of what's going on as part of the Advent reflection. Really good time. So again, folks could be doing this, sitting in on this webinar for a couple of reasons. They're trying to organize something for their entire school. You're part of a committee that's doing that. You could actually be the administrator, or you could just be a teacher looking for ideas for your own classroom. Many of these ideas we were trying to keep in mind, and so you have resources available along the way here. So right off the bat, the United States or Catholic Council of Bishops, their Advent Wreath Blessing. I've thrown up a lot of things through TinyURL. That's a nice service if you've never used that before. So hopefully in about 6 or 7 characters you can get to these websites. I decided to go that route instead of giving you some big long names like many of them are. But so you've got a nice Advent Wreath Blessing. The U.S. Bishops Conference has actually several prayer pieces available if you want to go through their site. So that could be a good resource for you. Another very, very strong resource is actually this piece called Keeping the Seasons. It is actually a CD that you go ahead and purchase. It has prayer seasons throughout the year, but a good section on Advent. And the CD allows you to go ahead and take their developed prayer services, print them out for whatever season that you're in, the copies that you need. You have an entire school resource right there for the whole school, which you can share across the building. It's really a nice CD. I do think it runs about $30. So it should be a very strong resource. Your next one there is actually an entire book that was written, that's been put up online. And I've given you the link there, how to access that, by Connie Clark, 23rd Publications. She did a really nice job. Again, this is another one, has prayer services. They are targeted to the middle school level. I think you've got a bit of leeway when you look at those. You can see those of you who are in the intermediate and lower high school grades. I think there's a lot there that could be pulled from that would work really well. Nice reflections, monthly Advent prayers there that you can utilize. I think you'd be real happy in going ahead and utilizing that. One of the things here, as you are going ahead, you're in your school and you're going to go ahead and have school-wide prayer services, invite your parents. Let them know that you're gathering as a school community and you want them to be part of these prayers. Draw them in, make a specific effort. It's a great way a lot of times on a Monday morning, first thing in the day, to start off with your Advent prayer. Gather the entire school. Many times some schools go ahead and do that anyway throughout the year. In a lot of cases, the school will go ahead and do its prayers through the morning announcements. Go ahead and look at this as a time where you get the whole school together for something special. Have the Advent wreath there and draw one together for that prayer time. But bring the parents in, grandparents. Make them all know that they are welcome, as well as your pastor. Keep them informed or invited. If you're doing it in the classroom, invite your classroom parents, your principal, your pastor. Keep those folks involved, okay? I've also put together some other resources here for you, some PowerPoints that are some nice single prayer reflections and some prayer services there. We have the Caritas group. They are a Catholic human rights organization that's actually out of Australia. It's a great thing about the World Wide Web. You can kind of find anybody's resources. The Catholic Church and schools in Australia. Catholic schools in Australia are very strong, and it's a very interesting piece over there. But so they have some good resources for you at Caritas. Also, Loyola Press. There's a PowerPoint at the resource that I've given you, as well as a prayer service there. And then a couple of things about that you can use with your class about explaining the wreath, the Advent wreath, some prayer services with, I think, younger and older groups there on the tiny URLs. You can just plop those in and get yourself there. So now, also what I want you to do is consider how we can draw in the staff to this process. They can be a part of the whole school and that prayer service, but reaching out to adults is its own special significant ministry. So I want, hopefully folks can look at this as an opportunity to draw the staff together. Whether your building or not does it, there are quite a few Catholic schools that before students come into the building, the staff gathers for prayer in the morning. This can be a very powerful, prayerful, but also unifying collaborative piece, because at times many people don't see each other throughout the day in a Catholic school building. You know this, and it is a good chance to collaborate. If your staff is not doing this, issue an invitation to them to gather, if not daily, at least once a week as well. But daily is terrific. I encourage you to do two things. Look at the first, make it open to everyone on how God has blessed them, the gifts that God has given to them. Two, what things they need support and prayer about in their life. And offer those two things out there. And then you can build your prayer either through our traditional Our Father, Hail Mary, and as well as any other prayer service you want to build out. But at least do that. If you have a little difficulty building that full school support for it, or even if you do, get some small groups together that will read some Advent reflections. There's multiple sources out there for what you can do. One of my favorites is from Father Edward Hayes. He has an Advent reflection book with daily Advent reflections. That would be a good one. Everybody has their own personal prayer time, reads, reflects, and then gathers about once a week to go ahead and discuss the materials. Advent buddies. Many schools go ahead and where the staff will do a Secret Santa sort of thing. We'll twist this around a little bit. And let's put it into a spiritual format instead of little gifts and trinkets and things like that that people have passed on to their desks or mailbox or things like that you may be familiar with. What about a prayerful Advent support during this season? Dropping into people's desks or mailboxes, short notes about, I was praying for you today. I went in for a special mass on the weekend. I said a decade of the rosary for you. Hope you're doing well. Or, if you're able to gather in those prayer times, a prayerful way of supporting folks, with some, and letting them know that those issues that they needed prayer about, that you were doing that. So those pieces are there. Some of you may be principals, and I want to just kind of point out these 4 books here. Those are very nice. Principals, you may be looking for a variety of ways of growing your staff in their spiritual outlook. So you have the first one that I listed here is a real nice guide built out of some folks from California, building the spiritual community among faculty, and then they also have their follow-up companion book here. 2 nice books on building that. We also have the monograph series from NCEA is here. Those were put out and focused on building spiritual leadership in your schools. So principal, if you're looking for materials, you're not entirely sure where to go with some of that, a couple real nice materials that are focused on particularly you being able to build those out. Okay, now, let me get this set here to move along. Okay, now prayer. There is an app for everything, right? Absolutely. So even prayer, we got apps for that. So I want to pass on some of these. We actually have a few that are focused specifically on Advent, and then a few others that I'll pass along to you just that are nice ones to have. We have Life of Jesus. Life of Jesus is actually an app. I've definitely seen on the iOS, and we can check on the Android, but it's a really nice little site, and it has multiple chapters of Jesus' life, miracles, the crucifixion, and so one of the pieces within Life of Jesus, this one is free. It's the Virgin Birth. I believe the others, as you add on, you can buy those for $2. But one is a story, a read-aloud storybook. So we have one of the illustrations here from the book. Very child-friendly for the primary grades, and a good app to introduce them to the story, to reading, to engaging. It also has a little bit of sing-along, some puzzles that go into it. But this, the beginning part here, Life of Jesus, Virgin Birth, that is all free. So nothing like free stuff that you can use in your classrooms. So for you primary grade teachers, that's right there for you. I had mentioned a little bit earlier, Caritas out of Australia. They also have an Advent app. So you can go to the iTunes store. It's free. This one I do know is available for Android, for those tablets or phones, if you would like to use those. I know many folks either have tablets available in the classroom. You also have the option of bringing those up onto smart boards or active boards, that type of thing. Or as well, from the Caritas website, if you go to that at Advent, they have this a mirror of the app available on their website. And what it is actually an Advent calendar with reflections that go along with it. So a nice resource. I also want to remind folks during this time, we do have the Today's Meet there. So if you're having any questions, comments, you want to see pieces that Chris, I know, is posting up in there. So make sure you go ahead and keep that Today's Meet moving along and check in with that. For any of you who, see we had some folks who popped in a little bit late. So that is todaysmeet.com/NCEA-Advent. So you can have that for those of you who just dropped in. Okay, now there is also some other prayer apps. Some nice ones. They are not as much Advent specific, but they are really good reflections and helping out in your spiritual life as well. We have the 3-minute retreat. If any of you are not aware of this, it's through Loyola Press. It is a wonderful short prayer service. It is good for your own personal reflection. You could do it with your staff, and is absolutely appropriate for any grade, intermediate and up, through middle, high school. This is a great little app. And the nice piece is, if you go to the Loyola Press website, they actually have it online as well. So the 3-minute retreat is here, and what 3-minute retreat is, you have access. It gives you, first of all, just it comes off with some nice visuals, nice, relaxing, very peaceful spiritual videos. Actually has an audio track that will play for you of some nice meditative music, and then it'll kind of guide you through relaxing yourself, meditating and calming. It will give you an introductory reading from the scriptures. It goes ahead, then gives you some questions to ponder, a little bit of time for personal prayer, and then a closing prayer as well. It is a really nice introduction to the day, and you should. It's definitely worth checking out. Also, we have here through Loyola Press other 6. It is nice because our last day of the week is supposed to be our day of prayer, which we dedicate to God. And what other 6 does is kind of poses the question of, what are you doing during those other 6 days? And what it does is it puts forward, it's actually a sort of social networking, a little bit, prayer site, and you post the things that you are thankful for as well as the things that you need support in. And you receive feedback from others, prayers, you can pray for others. So it's a great piece to go ahead, you yourself can offer it up, show students. The Get Holy is actually a piece that is available, and that is actually through Studentville University. Is very high school student oriented, and it sort of takes the students through a training session, almost through athletics and building up the habits of athletics. And it is prayer oriented, though, to the point where they actually have check-ins. Their app gives them daily reminders to pray, has an alarm in there, has a check-in with the youth minister who can follow up with them. So really nice, really nice. We have the Indigo. That is also here, a nice collaborative site. This is a good one to pass on to your parents, to do with your staff. This is a very good adult-oriented, and it is also a collaborative prayer reflection. It has its reflections, but it's also there looking strongly at community, and a couple others there, as well as on the bottom of the list here, you just got a little peek into my iPad. It's some of the prayer pieces that I use. Nice little Catholic cheat sheet, a rosary guide, confession app. If you haven't ever seen the confession app, that's a nice little reconciliation app that goes along there. So that's a good one and worth using. Okay, so let's see. Now, many of you are Pinterest users. Use Pinterest for celebrating Advent. Not just Christmas ideas and how to Martha Stewart decorate, but actually go ahead and dig in there. Do a search on Advent. There's a bunch of resources for Advent activities, all you Pinterest junkies. Awesome out there. We have Monica Danowski, so if you want to check out her boards, she has pinned up a lot of pieces up there on great elementary school resources, but those of you on the other levels, go digging through. There's some great boards out there on reflections that you can do for all you Pinterest junkies. All right, I have some websites for you. I've mentioned Loyola Press already a little bit, and I am going to give them some more props. They have put together an outstanding Advent website for you all who are looking for just a whole host of variety of resources. I mentioned the book from NCEA and said you could pretty much build an entire your Advent reflections around that. Loyola Press's site on Advent is one that is equally comparable. They have a huge amount for you. They have your prayers, retreats, all sorts of classroom activities. They have your Advent prayer sessions already planned out, a big piece there, readings. It's just a tremendous website. You need to go ahead and check this out. You will not regret it. It's a huge amount of resources for you. Another good website for some of you who are looking around for just a good one to go for a little bit of reflection, insight. Busted Halo is out there as well. Busted Halo takes a little more of a, as you can kind of gather from the name of, for imperfect Catholics trying to work through their faith and come up with how to live their faith. That's a neat one as well that has some good resources out here. I'm going to give you another one here, a Cyber Pilgrim, the Advent website here. This is another website that is huge with resources for you for your Advent prayer, actually for any time of the year prayer, but when you're in particular trying to gather up resources for Advent, all kinds of things there. Weekly prayer services, how you can pull technology into your prayer and reflection. They've got Wordle prayers, the whole variety of activities. There is a large number of reflection videos on this website. We know kids today and students of all ages have become very visually oriented. These videos are really strong, great resource for the classroom. Hop on there, preview them. There's more than you'll probably be able to use. So I've been passed along a couple really strong websites for you. Take the time, dig through those. You won't regret it. Okay, so also what I want you to do is think about how to use Advent as a time of exploring and expanding students and their faith life. And that includes their prayer experiences. So what I want you to do is think about the idea of some prayer experiments. Well, these can work great. You have each of the 4 weeks of Advent. Let's go ahead and jump in and say each of those 4 weeks, I'm going to go over to the church and introduce the students to a new form of prayer. Most every place has a church or a chapel available. If you don't, go ahead and do a little bit of a conversion process on your room. Push the desks aside. Your primary classrooms, you guys have got some rugs available. High school students that kind of love getting the desks out of the way anyway. But if you can make it to the church, it's really good at setting the mood. But if you don't, but what you want to do, draw the students in to 4 types of prayer that they probably not have experienced before. The Missal provides a great form of prayer, and most students have not actually sat down and prayed that before. On the other end of the spectrum, from a very formalized form of prayer, going to guided meditation. Try a guided meditation with them, maybe some specific Eucharistic adoration and reflections based around that. Taze prayer. There's a whole variety of prayer experiences out there for the students, and we've exposed them to only a few of them. Some of them are very formalized. Some of them are very contemplative. Give them the access to both. And maybe you're saying to yourself, well, I'm not a prayer expert. I haven't even seen the Missal or know what Taze prayer is. You don't have to. Ask your pastor. Ask your DRE. Ask the campus minister. Go to the parish staff. Draw them in and let them help you. In many cases, they're going to easily tutor you or be willing to help you go through the process yourself. But give the students some new experiences of prayer, okay? Again, that's easily something that can be opened up to your parents as well. All right, what a gift. I want you to think about this is a prayer activity that you can easily incorporate into a weekly prayer service. You can do it for the entire school. You can do it for just your classroom. A lot of options, and this, it doesn't matter whether you're in primary or high school. This is a great idea that will work. You may want to adjust the way in which you walk through it a little bit for the older kids, but easily can be done and get strong buy-in. So what you do, the idea is prior to the prayer service, have students pose the question of what are the gifts that God has given you in your life? Give them a significant amount of time to think through about all the good things in their life. In particular, this could work very well with older students after having done some reflections on some more impoverished places of the world, and taking a look at that and get them thinking about that. So what you can do then, have those answers to that question, what are the gifts God has given you, have them put it on a cutout of a wrapped gift. And that can be a piece that is put up onto a bulletin board, either within the classroom or for the whole school. As the whole school has gathered, what you can do is during the prayer service, have students come forward and let them read off one of the gifts that's on the present. And the idea with the present then is not only is this gift that they were given, but now they've wrapped it up, they've put it onto this paper, and it is a gift that they are giving back out. It's not a selfish gift. So we are giving those gifts back out and how they can share them. The other piece is if you have a barren Christmas tree. Again, you can pick the location, classroom, common place in the school, have them decorate an ornament and put on their gifts that they have been given, maybe a prominent one on on the front and a list of them on the back. Without sharing those gifts, the tree is bare. Put them up onto the tree. It is shared, it is beautiful, and Christ's community is vibrant, right? So go ahead and think of that. You know, this is one that easily could be done at home. This is certainly, if you do it, one that you would want to share with parents. They'll get all weepy. So get the faculty involved with this. Put it into the faculty, either let the faculty do it in their own break room, or have the faculty go ahead and put it up there with the students and join in that whole community themselves. Okay, so a great faculty tie-in. All right, through the world of video, we already talked about the fact that obviously video is a strong connection for students these days. And so what you want to go ahead and you can look at doing, have the students produce videos. If you know your kids, vast many of them have already put up 3 dozen videos to YouTube anyway. If you're not completely sure how to do this, you can check with your technology teacher. Could be a good collaboration in between the two of you. So what you want to do, get some of our Christmas songs that we are out there that are traditional. O Holy Night, Little Town of Bethlehem, Away in a Manger, Silent Night, all these great classic Christmas carols that students are very familiar with. Now go ahead, and depending on their age level, what you can do, have them put up some, we have a very rich tradition of nativity art, and they can build a moving PowerPoint, an iMovie that's based around that. What you can also do then with older students is begin to engage them with the idea of, okay, if we're going to take the words of those songs and really reflect on those words, who are the people that that song speaks to today? What are the scenarios that would sort of match up there? And begin to put it in a modern context. You can start to have the students themselves sing and record themselves. As students get into the older grades, they are becoming talented musicians. Let them actually play the music themselves and use some of those gifts and talents that God has given them. So it really can be a very strong connection. Like we said, many of them have built these things already out for themselves. What you want to do then, that is part of the class project, but then take those songs and incorporate them into your prayer service as an entire school. Play those. Post them up on, many folks have their own classroom website. Put them up there. Put them up there for parents to see and send them links to what your kids have produced. It is a very, very strong way of letting the kids minister, pray, and reflect and lead each other in a very comfortable format to get them used to being a prayer leader. Okay, we are going to go ahead now and switch a little bit from our prayer to a little more reflection. What are some things that you can go ahead and do to draw out a little bit of inspiration for the students and reflection in that way? So we have our 4 weeks of Advent. Why don't you take one of those in the classroom each week, go through and read the gospel nativity story from each of the 4. Let students kind of hear from the gospel. One of the things that we Catholics don't tend to do as well as our Protestant brothers and sisters, we don't read the Bible. And we certainly don't read a gospel from beginning to end, but at least give them the opportunity to read the whole gospel story from each of the gospels. Let them do some comparing, some contrasting, right? And let them see the similarities, the differences. Were there any particular things in the differences of the stories that spoke to them? So they can be reading those on their own. Those can be a group project. Nice way of following the story, getting into the Bible. Some of you are familiar with the Genius Hour concept. I believe it actually started out of Google. Google had 20% time, in which all Google, their employees, were given 20% of their work week to go off and explore and dig into ideas that excited them. Many of you are familiar with the fact that this is an idea that is caught on in classrooms. in schools and taking a portion of each week and dedicating it to a project or an idea, area of interest that students are interested in learning about that. Well, let's go ahead and do this Advent style. Let's put our Catholic take on Genius Hour and let the kids go ahead and take an area within Advent that they are excited, interested, want to dig into more in a way that they never have. What are some of the, again, some of the traditional stories? What does our prayer and our teaching teach us about angels and the angels? What do we know about the three wise men and their story? What are some modern takes? What is the way in which song has played a part in this? Look at some of the symbolism behind our Christmas masses and what goes on in the Mass. The different pieces and tradition, it's all there in a huge amount. If you've never heard of the Genius Hour, the 20% time, I've given you a link there to a website article that describes it out from Edutopia. If you're not familiar with Edutopia, wonderful, wonderful nonprofit education site that you can be digging into. Many folks go ahead and use journaling. Again, continue that. It's a great exercise, but do it then with the idea there of Advent reflections and follow up with those with students, of course, when you have them write, read what they write. The Jesse tree, if you're not familiar with that concept, good link from Loyola Press that was actually on the website that I showed you earlier. Student recognition pieces, again, especially for the younger grades, where you can tie this into their positive behavior and getting them to reflect about that. Folks will do everything from you can physically have a manger available and put in real pieces of straw, or you do it up on your bulletin board, where students good and kind acts, Advent caliber acts, actually earn them pieces of straw, and so they add it to the manger and making a good place for Christ to reside. They're making a good place within their classroom, so they see the physical representation. You can do it also with again, a bare Christmas tree. Every good, kind, Advent-worthy act gets them an ornament, and ornaments go up onto the tree. It could be physical. It could be a bulletin board again. All right. You have another piece in the classroom. Take a reflective trip around the nativity scene. And we can go very literal and traditional with this, what the experiences were of the different characters that play out within the nativity scene, what the experience was for those people, but then also go ahead and take that and do it in a little more thought-provoking, a little higher order thinking kind of way, and what people today kind of take on those roles. Who are the angels? Who proclaims God's words and reaches out? What does that role look like within our church, either through clergy, through religious, through parish ministers? Who are the shepherds, those people who are kind of marginalized and on the sides of society? Who do we not kind of completely welcome in? Or they are migrants who pass through? Who are the wise men? Who are today's wise men? People who have earned huge amounts of wealth but then choose to act philanthropically, kind of not like the Hollywood lifestyle with all kinds of bling, but in living a life of philanthropy. So go ahead, that little reflective trip around the nativity scene, you could build that up into a very strong activity, and that goes beyond grade level. You can really scale this idea up, see it done very nicely in all kinds and levels of classrooms. All right, video connections is another strong area. Take the TV Christmas classics, Charlie Brown, Grinch. We've got ones that folks just simply love. Well, we live in a very video-oriented society, so let's do something with this. Go ahead, allow the students to go ahead and watch the video, let them get familiar with it. They're short, half hour, 20 minutes, once you drop out the commercials. Have them then go back through it a second time. The second time in going through it, let them look at it with a critical eye now. And in what way, what are the messages going on in those videos. For the Grinch, he saw things getting wrapped up in materialism, and it's certainly a complaint that we can do. In what ways do, the people see, the students see the Christmas message getting lost in that? And then have them journal on that, and then show how actually, we know the folks down in the village, they really didn't care about the materialism, and write about what that looks like. Have they themselves been the Grinch or seen somebody being the Grinch and trying to stomp out, the joy of Christmas, And we have that same theme reflected in Peanuts Christmas with Charlie Brown, and so you kind of get the idea there of how you could use those couple videos. Vine, if you're not familiar with Vine, it is sort of a visualized Twitter. It is very short. People actually create 6-second videos. It sounds impossible to most of us, but it is very strong with young students, the teens, and they absolutely love this. So let them go with it. What kind of reflections could they build up in a Vine video? We also have The Fourth Wise Man. It's a great period movie. It actually tracks the story of the fourth wise man who actually went out with the other three, but along the way he was carrying his gift of jewels, but he stopped along the way helping different people and gave away all his gifts for the Christ child in ministering to others, and finally meets up with Jesus at the foot of the cross, but empty-handed, but having a lifetime of fulfilling encounters with others. So nice one there. All right, now we're going to go ahead and step forward and look at our idea of service. We know our prayer and reflection builds our hearts full of love for Christ, and so what we want to go ahead and do then is take that love and share it, and we show God our love by reaching out to others. So a lot of strong ways of going ahead and doing this. Many schools already, a lot of your schools already do some sort of service project. Please make sure, if you're not, do it again this Christmas season, and if not, your the parishes that your schools are associated or near have outreach going on. So what you want to go ahead and do is make sure that your school participates in this. A classroom, if your school is not, go ahead and get the classroom involved with it and make sure there's a special effort of support. There's a whole variety of different groups who are very much in need. The key here that we want to go ahead and look at, there's a very special need of what sometimes happens. We can have the opportunity to focus so much on helping these folks during the Advent season, going up to Christmas, having our giving trees, and then come January, February, March, after our whole season of preparing to transform our lives for Christ and His coming, and then what do? All the Christmas trees, the lights have been put away, and that special change, we're back into ordinary time, and ordinary time, sometimes we forget about the changes that we were trying to make. So what this calls us to is go ahead and stay active, involved with those groups that were being supported during Advent. And you can get your school or your classroom to really target and focus on those folks. And obviously we know we can't always hit folks up for money, and that can be tight. But the support doesn't take money. What you can go ahead and do, you can go ahead and be offering prayer support and be praying for those groups. Students can be learning about these marginalized groups and how they can further reach out to them in their own time, or being grown up as grown-ups. They can go ahead and pass on drawings, letters of support, their prayers. So that's an option. An overall community awareness campaign. They can be doing things and putting things together to educate their own parents about these pieces. A great piece that I saw some folks use was the a used toy sale. Bring that in. Okay? All right. Let's go ahead and take a look here. High schools. High school students have the ability to go ahead and plan out some of these retreats and prayer service, not only for themselves, but for the younger partner schools in these elementary and middle schools, let them do this. The parish schools, you know, when I talked about putting together those videos, these different prayers, these different reflections, let this go ahead and be organized as an Advent prayer for the rest of the parish. Let the students be ministers to the rest of the parish. The parish is always supporting the school. Put it out there as something to go ahead and support the parish. A nice idea that we've seen before is the Three Wise Men care package. When all the visitors come in for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day Mass, let them walk out with a bundle from the school of prayers, maybe a little goodie, some drawings, a support as they go back on their travels back home to take with them, being offered up from the school students. So, you know, one of those other support pieces, you can always go ahead and look at some of these service projects from the eyes of how do you support folks coming into the church as well. Forgot to mention that one. All right. You can also take the service in one more direction, in another direction. There are a lot of humanitarian organizations out there that use this as a particular time, gift giving, as a way to completely change the lives of others. You may be familiar with some of the organizations that we've listed out here. There's two Catholic Relief Services ones, the CRS ones, and I've given you some short links to their sites, as well as heifer.org, worldvision.org. Again, these are not endorsements of those organizations. They're just some potential resources to check out and investigate yourself. But what those first four do is it allows some fundraising support for domesticated animals. And it sounds odd to give someone a goat here living in the first world. What we don't realize is in the third world, a gift like that actually completely changes the lives of impoverished people, gives them self-sustainability so that they don't have to rely on other folks again. But there's donations of pigs and goats and cattle and fish for farms, as well as the water projects that are there. There's education projects through CRS, some social services, a whole variety of services for people who have been trafficked. Down there at the bottom, IJM, the International Justice Mission, they have a piece on their website about the Advent conspiracy and how marketing has sort of taken over our faith-filled concept. And can we do a little more to combat that as Christians? IJM is a faith-based organization, and they do a lot for those who have been trafficked and ending trafficking, so you can take a look at that one yourself and the website there. So what you may do is not only can your classes raise money for those organizations, those humanitarian organizations, but you may want to go ahead and say, as a teacher, you know what, I've gotten enough Christmas coffee mugs, I've had my fill of Starbucks gift cards. Instead, why don't you, instead of giving me a gift, why don't you contribute to our class project of, you know, buying some impoverished people a domesticated animal that could change their lives. You know, so we can throw that as well. You can pass these sources on. If you're going to do it as a class project, pass it on to your families. Again, make that connection. You know, I'm going to try to, I'm trying to spell out some obvious connections here. Your entire school can make it a project to work with CRS that throughout the year to raise their funds to support. Many of your parishes as well have sister schools or parishes across the world in impoverished areas that can be an ongoing support source as well. But a real good for folks to reflect on, you know, maybe are we getting too commercialized, and you can help families out that way. All right, a few concluding thoughts. Please. We threw up, Chris and I saw this graphic, a great friend from Boston College, Katie, and she had put this up on one of her presentations. So we are, like all good educators, we steal good ideas. And the piece was, you know, it's on the airlines, You put the oxygen mask on yourself, and then you start reaching out to care for others. Please, during this Advent season, take your own time for prayer, feed yourself, build up your own spiritual connections. Do that. With all of these ideas, we want you to keep the idea of how could this be built up as a year-long extended project. If you're doing prayer services, how can you build them up as prayer services? If you're doing spiritual reflections with the staff, how can I build them up as year-long reflections for the staff? And then look always within the classroom of how can those three pieces be connected, of student prayerfulness to parents to the staff, drawing in the whole parish community. So, you know, hopefully been trying to make some connections to those points throughout the presentation. Go back through the materials and kind of look for that as well, where those connections work for you all. A few folks want to really pay special thanks to. Mickey and Kathy here at NCEA really helped with some ideas and input to Chris and I. And Kate, thank you so much for coordinating. I'd be just lost tech-wise here without you pulling this all together. Monica Danowski at her school out in Ohio really gave some good input and some links for some different pieces, including Pinterest there. So a special shout out to Monica. Thank you very much. So if you have any further ideas, this is how to contact us. I know if anybody has any questions out there, Kate, that were coming up that we can help address, give some input to. You know, we're pretty close to the end of our time.
Yeah. Certainly you can enter your questions in the question bubble or jump onto the todaysmeet.com site. You know, something comes up later on, brushing your teeth, or something that happens in the classroom tomorrow for sure, be sure to share it with us at todaysmeet.com. We'll get back to you and enjoy the dialogue on that. But I think folks are sitting with information. Going to go ahead and start wishing you all a great evening. We're going to conclude today's webinar of Advent Awakenings, Use a Seasonal Reflection to Build a Year of Spiritual Community Development. We will be sending you an email in the next day or two with instructions on accessing the recorded webinar file, as well as the presentation slides. That way you can have the links to the websites and the apps that Jim has referred to. We certainly appreciate your time and invite you to visit our website at www.ncea.org to view the schedule of future webinar events. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.